Sergeant Ben Torres stood in the cold metal hallway of Coalition Base Alpha, staring at the assignment notice in his hands. Around him, other human soldiers walked past with their gear, preparing for the morning briefing. The paper felt strange between his fingers, like it carried news he wasn't ready to hear. Integration Program Assignment, the header read in bold letters. Soldier Torres, Benjamin, Assigned Companion, Kip, Species Vela, Classification, Combat Support. Ben had heard rumors about this program. The Galactic Coalition wanted human soldiers to work with alien recruits. Some called it progress. Others called it a waste of time. Ben wasn't sure what to call it yet. He folded the paper and walked toward the briefing room. Inside, 20 other human soldiers sat on metal benches. At the front, Commander Hayes stood next to a large screen showing pictures of different alien species. Today begins the formal launch of our integration program, Commander Hayes announced. His voice echoed in the room. Each of you has been paired with an alien recruit. Your job is to train them, fight alongside them, and prove that different species can work together in combat. A soldier named Rick raised his hand. Sir, what if our alien can't keep up? Then you teach them how to keep up, Hayes replied. The Coalition believes humans have a special ability to adapt and help others adapt. That's why we're leading this program. Ben looked around the room. Some soldiers seemed excited. Others looked worried. A few were trying not to laugh. Torres, Hayes called out. You're first. Meet your assigned companion. The side door opened, and a small figure walked in. Ben's first thought was that someone had made a mistake. The alien couldn't be more than 4 feet tall. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to glow slightly under the room's bright lights. Large, dark eyes took up most of its face, and they moved constantly, looking at every corner, every shadow, every person in the room. This is Kip, Hayes said. From the Vela species. Kip, meet Sergeant Torres. The alien stepped forward slowly. Its hands shook as it raised one in what Ben recognized as an attempt at a human salute. Greetings, Sergeant Torres, Kip said in a soft voice that sounded like wind through leaves. I am honored to serve with you. Behind Ben, he heard someone whisper, poor Torres got stuck with the scared one. Another voice added, that thing looks like it would run from its own shadow. Ben ignored them and stepped forward. Hello, Kip. We'll be working together from now on. Kip's large eyes blinked several times. Yes, Sergeant. I will try my best not to disappoint you. The briefing continued with other introductions. Ben watched as his fellow soldiers met their alien partners. There was Zara, a tall, strong-looking alien with silver scales. There was Thorn, whose species looked almost human except for the extra arms. There was Nex, whose people had natural armor plating. Then there was Kip, who jumped slightly every time someone dropped equipment or spoke too loudly. After the briefing, Ben led Kip to the training facility. The large room had obstacle courses, weapon stations, and simulation pods. Other human-alien pairs were already starting their practice sessions. Have you ever used human weapons? Ben asked as they approached the firing range. I have studied them, Kip replied, but his voice was uncertain. My species prefers to avoid conflict when possible. Ben picked up a standard plasma rifle and showed Kip how to hold it. The weapon looked enormous in the alien's small hands. When Kip tried to aim at the practice target, the rifle's weight made him shake even more. It's okay, Ben said. We'll start with something smaller. He found a pistol that better fit Kip's size. As they practiced, Ben noticed something interesting. Kip's shots were terrible when he aimed normally, but occasionally he would suddenly turn and fire at a different target with perfect accuracy. Why did you shoot at that target? Ben asked after one of these moments. It felt wrong, Kip said, then paused as if trying to find the right words. The air around it was singing a different song. Ben didn't understand what that meant, but he filed the information away in his mind. During physical training, other alien recruits ran obstacle courses and lifted weights. Kip struggled with the physical challenges. He was too small to climb certain walls and too weak to lift standard equipment. Some of the human soldiers began making jokes. "Hey Torres," Rick called out during a break. "Maybe your little friend would be better in the kitchen than the battlefield." Kip's skin changed color slightly, becoming darker blue. Ben realized this might be how his species showed embarrassment or sadness. "He's here to learn, just like the rest of us did once," Ben replied firmly. That evening, Ben found Kip sitting alone in the recreation area. The alien was staring at the walls, but his eyes kept moving, as if he was seeing things that weren't there. "Everything okay?" Ben asked, sitting down next to him. "I can hear everything," Kip said quietly. "The electricity in the walls. The computers processing data. The life signs of every person in this building. For my people, this is very painful, but I am trying to learn to manage it." Ben began to understand. "That's why you jump at loud noises. You're not just hearing them." "Correct," Kip said. "My species evolved on a quiet world. We sense electromagnetic fields and bioelectric patterns. It helps us find food and avoid predators. But here, with so much technology and so many people, it can be overwhelming." "Is that how you knew which targets to shoot at during practice?" Kip nodded. "The practice targets emit a specific frequency to register hits. But some were malfunctioning. They sang the wrong song, so I knew they needed different adjustment." Ben felt a spark of excitement. "Kip, can you sense other types of technology? Like security systems or vehicle engines?" "Yes," Kip said. "All technology has its own electromagnetic signature. I can usually tell what something does by how it sounds to my senses." The next morning, Ben requested permission to design custom training exercises for Kip. Instead of focusing on physical strength, they worked on applying Kip's natural abilities to military situations. Ben set up a test where Kip had to identify which practice weapons were loaded and which were empty, just by sensing their electromagnetic patterns. Kip succeeded perfectly every time. They practiced with Kip identifying the number of people in nearby rooms by reading their bioelectric signatures. Again, Kip was completely accurate. Word of these exercises reached Commander Hayes, who came to observe. Ben explained what they were learning about Kip's abilities. "Interesting," Hayes said after watching Kip correctly identify the locations of hidden electronic devices around the training room. "The Coalition chose our species to lead this program because humans are good at finding potential in others. You might be proving their point." Over the following days, Ben and Kip developed a working partnership. Ben learned to recognize the subtle color changes in Kip's skin that indicated what the alien was sensing. Darker blue meant electronic interference. Lighter blue meant he was detecting life signs. A greenish tint meant he sensed something unusual or potentially dangerous. Meanwhile, Ben taught Kip basic tactics and helped him find equipment that worked better for his size and abilities. They developed hand signals so Kip could communicate what he sensed without speaking aloud. Other soldiers began to notice their progress. The joke stopped when Kip started helping other human-alien pairs by identifying equipment problems they couldn't detect with normal scanners. "Your alien found the malfunction in my rifle before the technicians did," one soldier told Ben. "How did he know?" "He listens to things differently than we do," Ben replied. The real test came when Commander Hayes announced their first mission assignment. They were going to Zirian Prime, a contested moon where enemy Kraken forces had established military positions. The mission was reconnaissance, gather information about enemy strength and positions. As Ben packed his gear, he felt both nervous and excited. He had trained with many soldiers over the years, but never with someone whose abilities were so different from human capabilities. Kip appeared beside him, carrying a pack that had been specially modified for his size. "Sergeant Torres," he said, "I want to thank you for believing in me when others did not." "We're a team now," Ben replied. "We look out for each other." As they prepared to board the transport ship, Ben noticed that Kip seemed calmer than before. His skin maintained a steady pale blue color, and his eyes, while still alert, no longer darted around in fear. "Sergeant," Kip said quietly as they walked toward the ship, "I am sensing something about this mission that feels important." "What do you mean?" "The electromagnetic patterns around this mission are different from training exercises. There are frequencies I have not encountered before. I think we will face challenges that neither of us expects." Ben looked at his small alien partner and realized that their real test was about to begin. Whatever waited for them on Zirian Prime would determine whether the integration program was a breakthrough or a dangerous mistake. As they boarded the transport ship with the other human-alien pairs, Ben felt a strange confidence. He had learned to see beyond Kip's small size and nervous behavior. Underneath, there was something special, abilities that could make the difference between success and failure in the dangerous work ahead. The ship's engines powered up, and they lifted off into space, heading toward their first combat mission together. The transport ship Horizon cut through space toward Zirian Prime. Ben Torres sat next to Kip in the passenger section, watching stars stream past the small windows. Around them, other human-alien teams checked their equipment and reviewed mission details. Zirian Prime appeared on the viewing screen as they approached. The moon looked like a gray rock covered in deep canyons and tall cliffs. Ben could see the glowing spots where Kraken forces had built their bases. "Primary objective is reconnaissance," Commander Hayes announced over the ship's communication system. "We need to know how many Kraken soldiers are down there and where they've placed their heavy weapons. Each team will take a different sector. Stay hidden, gather information, and return to the pickup point in 6 hours." Ben looked at his mission tablet. He and Kip were assigned to Sector 7, a canyon region on the moon's northern side. According to intelligence reports, it should have been one of the quieter areas. As they prepared to drop to the surface, Kip's skin began changing colors rapidly. First pale blue, then darker, then almost green. "What are you sensing?" Ben asked quietly. "Something is wrong with this place," Kip whispered. "The electromagnetic patterns are very chaotic. There is much more technology down there than the reports suggest." Ben made a note to be extra careful, but he didn't want to alarm the other teams based on what might just be Kip's nervousness. The drop pods launched from the ship, each carrying one human-alien team toward their assigned sectors. Ben felt his stomach lift as they fell through the moon's thin atmosphere. Beside him, Kip gripped his seat with small hands, but his skin had settled into a steady dark blue color. They landed in a rocky area between two tall canyon walls. Ben quickly checked their position on his scanner while Kip gathered his specially designed equipment pack. The silence around them felt heavy. "Which direction to our observation point?" Ben asked, looking at the map on his tablet. Kip closed his eyes for a moment, then pointed toward a narrow path between the rocks. "That way feels safest for now," he said. "But Sergeant, there are many life signs in directions the map says should be empty." Ben trusted Kip's senses now. "How many?" "At least 40 Kraken soldiers. Maybe more. They are spread throughout these canyons, not just in the marked base locations." This was important information. Ben activated his communication device to report to Commander Hayes, but only static came through. "Communications are being blocked," he told Kip. "We need to get to higher ground." They began moving carefully through the rocky terrain. Ben led the way, using his military training to choose the best cover. Kip followed, constantly monitoring the electromagnetic signatures around them. After 20 minutes of climbing, they reached a good observation position overlooking a wide canyon. Ben set up his long-range scanner while Kip crouched beside him. What they saw made Ben's heart sink. The canyon below was full of Kraken military equipment. Armored vehicles, weapon platforms, and temporary buildings covered the canyon floor. Hundreds of Kraken soldiers moved between the installations. "This isn't just a base," Ben said quietly. "This is a full invasion staging area." Kip nodded, his skin now flashing between blue and green. "Sergeant, I am detecting something else. Energy signatures that feel like they are preparing for a large-scale operation." Ben began recording everything with his scanner, but suddenly Kip grabbed his arm. "We must move now," the alien said urgently. "Many soldiers are coming this way." "How do you know?" "I can sense their bioelectric patterns. They are climbing toward us from 3 different directions." Ben looked through his scope but saw nothing. However, he had learned to trust Kip's abilities. They quickly packed their equipment and began moving to a new position. Just as they reached cover behind a large rock formation, Ben heard voices echoing from where they had been moments before. Through a gap in the rocks, he could see Kraken soldiers searching the area with electronic detectors. "They almost found us," Ben whispered. "How did you sense them so far away?" "My people evolved to detect predators before they got close," Kip replied softly. "In this environment, I can sense Kraken life signs from much farther than normal human sensors can detect them." They waited until the search party moved away, then continued gathering intelligence. For the next hour, Kip guided them through the canyon system, always staying ahead of Kraken patrols. His ability to sense electromagnetic signatures also helped them avoid hidden security sensors and automated weapons. Ben began to realize that without Kip, he would have been captured or worse within the first 30 minutes. The reconnaissance mission that seemed straightforward was actually extremely dangerous. "Kip, can you tell what types of weapons they have down there?" Ben asked as they observed another installation. Kip studied the area below them, his eyes unfocused as he concentrated on the electromagnetic patterns. "Heavy plasma cannons. Vehicle-mounted missile systems. And something else." His skin turned a darker green. "There is a very large energy source in the main building. Something I have never encountered before." Ben recorded this information carefully. Whatever the Kraken were building here, it was bigger than anyone had expected. They were moving to their next observation point when disaster struck. Ben stepped on what looked like solid ground, but it was actually a thin layer of rock over an old mining tunnel. The ground collapsed, and he fell 12 feet into darkness. Ben landed hard on the tunnel floor, his left ankle twisting painfully. Above him, he could hear Kip calling his name quietly. "I'm alive," Ben called back softly. "But I think my ankle is injured. Can you climb out?" Kip's voice came from above. Ben tried to put weight on his ankle and immediately felt sharp pain. "No. I need another way out." Ben activated a small light and looked around the tunnel. It stretched in both directions, carved into the moon's rock. His scanner showed that one direction led toward the main Kraken installation. "Kip," he called upward, "I'm going to follow this tunnel. It might lead to a way out near the Kraken base." "Wait," Kip replied. "I am coming down." Before Ben could protest, the small alien lowered himself through the hole using a rope from his pack. Kip landed gracefully beside Ben in the tunnel. "You should stay up there where it's safe," Ben said. "We are a team," Kip replied simply. "Besides, my abilities will be more useful down here." As they moved through the tunnel, Ben leaning on Kip for support, the alien's electromagnetic senses proved invaluable. He could detect power cables running through the walls and sense where the tunnel connected to the Kraken installation above. "There is a maintenance access ahead," Kip reported. "I can feel the energy patterns of the main base's power systems." They found a ladder leading up to a metal hatch. Through Kip's guidance, they avoided the areas where Kraken soldiers were present and emerged inside a storage building at the edge of the base. Ben had never been this close to an active enemy installation. Through the building's windows, he could see Kraken soldiers preparing vehicles and loading weapons. But what caught his attention was the large central structure Kip had detected earlier. "That building," Ben whispered, pointing to the massive dome-shaped structure in the center of the base. "What can you sense from it?" Kip closed his eyes and concentrated. When he opened them again, his skin had turned almost black with concern. "It is a weapon, but not like the others." The energy patterns suggest it can affect large areas. Maybe entire planets. Ben realized they had discovered something far more dangerous than a simple invasion staging area. The Kraken were building a superweapon. We need to get this information back to command, Ben said. Agreed, Kip replied, but there are patrols between us and our pickup point. And with your injured ankle, avoiding them will be difficult. Ben looked at his small alien partner and made a decision that would have seemed impossible a few days earlier. Kip, I need you to guide us out of here. Use your senses to find the safest path. I'll follow your lead. For the next 2 hours, Kip led them through the Kraken base and surrounding terrain with incredible skill. He sensed patrol routes before the soldiers appeared and guided them around hidden sensors and automated defenses. His electromagnetic perception had become their most valuable tool. When they finally reached the pickup point, Ben realized that Kip had transformed from a nervous alien recruit into an essential military asset. More importantly, Ben had learned that effective teamwork meant recognizing and utilizing each member's unique strengths. As they waited for extraction, Ben watched Kip monitoring the surrounding area for threats. The alien's confidence had grown dramatically during their mission. His skin remained a steady pale blue, indicating he felt secure despite the dangerous situation. Kip, Ben said, you saved our mission today. Without your abilities, we never would have gotten this intelligence. You taught me to trust myself, Kip replied. And you trusted me when others would not have. The extraction ship appeared overhead, and Ben realized their partnership had become something special. They had proven that different species working together could achieve things that neither could accomplish alone. As they lifted off from Zirian Prime, Ben looked at the intelligence they had gathered. The information about the Kraken superweapon would change everything about the war effort. But more importantly, he and Kip had discovered how to combine human adaptability with Vela electromagnetic senses to create a new kind of military capability. The real test, however, was still to come. The briefing room on Coalition Base Alpha buzzed with activity. Ben Torres sat next to Kip, watching as Commander Hayes displayed their intelligence on the main screen. The images from Zirian Prime showed the massive Kraken superweapon installation they had discovered. Thanks to Torres and Kip's reconnaissance, Hayes announced, we now know the Kraken are building a planet-class energy weapon. If completed, it could destroy entire worlds from across a solar system. The other soldiers in the room looked impressed. Ben noticed that nobody was making jokes about Kip anymore. The small alien sat quietly, his skin a calm pale blue, but his large eyes remained alert. The Coalition High Command has approved Operation Stormbreak, Hayes continued. We're going to infiltrate and destroy that weapon before it becomes operational. Every human-alien team will have a specific target within the installation. Ben raised his hand. What's our assignment, sir? Hayes smiled. You two have proven you work well behind enemy lines. Your job is to create chaos. Use whatever methods work best for your combined abilities. Keep the Kraken forces confused while the main teams attack the weapon itself. After the briefing, Ben and Kip prepared their equipment. Over the past week, they had developed specialized gear that took advantage of Kip's electromagnetic senses. Kip now carried a modified scanner that could translate what he sensed into visual displays for Ben. Ben had learned to interpret Kip's skin color changes and had developed a system of hand signals for silent communication. Are you nervous about going back? Ben asked as they checked their gear. Not nervous, Kip replied thoughtfully. Excited. We have learned how to work together effectively. I believe we can accomplish things that others cannot. The assault force traveled to Zirian Prime in multiple ships to avoid detection. Ben and Kip rode in a small stealth craft with 2 other human-alien teams. As they approached the moon, Kip began monitoring electromagnetic patterns from the Kraken bases. The activity levels are much higher than during our first visit, Kip reported. They are preparing to test the weapon soon. How long do we have? Ben asked. Kip concentrated on the energy patterns below. Based on the power buildup rates, perhaps 6 hours before they attempt to fire it. The stealth craft dropped them at the same canyon where they had landed before. This time, however, they were not here just to observe. They were here to fight. Ben and Kip moved quickly through terrain they now knew well. Kip's electromagnetic senses guided them around patrol routes and security sensors. But instead of avoiding the Kraken installations, they began attacking them systematically. Their first target was a communications relay. While Ben provided cover, Kip used his ability to sense the relay's internal circuitry to identify exactly which components to disable. Within minutes, they had cut communications between 3 different Kraken outposts. The electromagnetic patterns show confusion in their command structure, Kip reported as they moved to their next target. They cannot coordinate their responses effectively. Their next target was a vehicle maintenance facility. Ben planted explosive charges while Kip used his senses to locate the power distribution points for the entire facility. When the explosives went off, they not only destroyed the vehicles but also knocked out power to a large section of the base. As they worked, Ben realized that their partnership had evolved beyond what either of them had imagined possible. Kip's electromagnetic senses allowed them to attack enemy installations with surgical precision. Ben's tactical knowledge helped them choose targets that would create maximum disruption with minimal risk. "Sergeant," Kip said as they observed their next target, "I am detecting something new. There are bioelectric patterns I have not seen before." "What kind of patterns?" "Very complex ones. I think the Kraken are using biological computers to control their weapon systems." This was crucial information. Ben activated his communication device and managed to reach Commander Hayes despite the interference. "Hayes here. Sir, we've discovered that the Kraken weapon uses biological control systems," Ben reported. "Standard electronic warfare might not work against it." "Understood. Can your team do anything about biological computers?" Ben looked at Kip, who was studying the energy patterns emanating from the main weapon installation. "Maybe. We'll try to get closer and assess the situation." They spent the next hour working their way toward the central weapon facility. The massive dome structure rose from the canyon floor like a mechanical mountain. Energy patterns visible to Kip's senses flowed around it like rivers of light. "The biological control system is incredibly complex," Kip explained as they crouched behind cover near the facility's outer wall. "It processes information the way a living brain does, but much faster than any brain I have encountered." "Can you interfere with it?" Ben asked. "Perhaps, but I would need to get much closer. And the electromagnetic interference from such close contact would be extremely painful for me." Before Ben could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the Kraken base. Emergency lights flashed, and soldiers began running toward defensive positions. "The main assault has begun," Ben said, watching coalition ships appear in the sky above them. "We need to move now." They infiltrated the weapon facility through a maintenance entrance that Kip identified by sensing the power flows inside the building. The interior was unlike anything Ben had ever seen. Biological computers that looked like giant brains floated in clear tanks, connected by cables that pulsed with energy. "The control center is 3 levels up," Kip said, his skin now flickering between different shades of blue and green as he dealt with the overwhelming electromagnetic environment. Fighting their way through the facility was challenging, but Kip's ability to sense Kraken soldiers before they appeared gave them a crucial advantage. Ben could set up ambushes and avoid enemy reinforcements because Kip always knew where the enemy forces were located. When they reached the weapon control center, Ben saw why the coalition was so concerned. The massive biological computer at the center of the room was already beginning the firing sequence. Energy readings on the displays showed power building toward dangerous levels. "Can you disrupt it?" Ben asked. Kip approached the biological computer, his skin now showing rapid color changes as he endured the electromagnetic interference. "I can try, but I need you to protect me while I work." Ben positioned himself to guard the entrances to the control room while Kip placed his hands on the biological computer's interface points. The alien's skin immediately turned almost black, indicating severe pain, but he maintained contact. "I can feel the control pathways," Kip said through gritted teeth. "But the system is fighting back. It recognizes that I am trying to interfere." Kraken soldiers began attacking the control room, trying to stop them. Ben fought them off while Kip worked to understand and disrupt the biological computer's functions. "The weapon is almost ready to fire," Kip reported. "But I think I can cause a feedback loop in the targeting system." "Do it," Ben said, firing at more approaching enemies. Kip pressed deeper into the biological computer's neural pathways. His skin changed to colors Ben had never seen before as the alien endured electromagnetic pain beyond what his species was designed to handle. "Now," Kip whispered. Instead of firing at its intended target, the weapon's energy discharge fed back into its own control systems. The biological computers throughout the facility began overloading, their neural pathways burning out from the feedback. The weapon's power core destabilized, and emergency systems began shutting down the entire installation. Ben grabbed Kip, who had collapsed from the electromagnetic overload, and carried him toward the exit. "Kip, stay with me," Ben said as they fled the facility. "We did it." "Did we stop the weapon?" Kip asked weakly. "You didn't just stop it," Ben replied as they watched the weapon facility's dome collapse behind them. "You turned it into a weapon against itself." The extraction ships arrived to pick up the assault teams. As they lifted off from Zirian Prime, Ben looked down at the ruined Kraken installations. Their small team had accomplished something that should have required much larger forces. During the flight back to Coalition Base Alpha, Commander Hayes visited Ben and Kip in the medical bay where Kip was recovering from electromagnetic overload. "The mission was a complete success," Hayes reported. "But what you two accomplished was extraordinary. Intelligence estimates that your disruption operations prevented hundreds of Coalition casualties." "Kip did the hard part," Ben said. "I just kept the bad guys away while he worked." "That's exactly what effective teamwork looks like," Hayes replied. "You found ways to combine human adaptability with Vela electromagnetic abilities to create capabilities neither species has alone." 2 weeks later, Ben and Kip stood before a gathering of Coalition leaders from dozens of different species. The integration program was being expanded based on their success. "Sergeant Torres and Recruit Kip have demonstrated that the strength of our alliance comes not from making all species the same, but from learning how our differences can complement each other," the Coalition Admiral announced. Ben looked at Kip, whose skin showed the calm pale blue of contentment. The small alien who had once been afraid of his own shadow had become one of the most effective soldiers in the Coalition forces. "You know what this means?" Ben asked quietly. "We will be training other human-alien teams," Kip replied. "Teaching them what we learned about working together. Are you ready for that responsibility?" Kip's skin shifted to a confident shade of blue that Ben had learned meant determination. "We will teach them that true strength comes from understanding and amplifying each other's unique capabilities." As they walked toward their new assignment as integration program instructors, Ben reflected on how much had changed since that first day in the briefing room. They had proven that the Coalition's faith in human adaptability was justified, but more importantly, they had discovered that the galaxy's greatest weapon against its enemies was the ability of different species to learn from each other and work together toward common goals. The integration program would spread throughout Coalition forces, creating teams that combined the best abilities of many species. And at the heart of it all would be the lesson that Ben and Kip had learned together, that differences are not weaknesses to overcome, but strengths to embrace.